You know, I love podcasting. I have since 2006, back when you had to use like a Dixie cup with string to make the thing work. And that's why I'm so excited that we recently moved Mysterious Goings On to Anchor FM to record our podcast. I gotta tell you, I don't regret it a bit. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Not going to lie to you, when I first heard about Anchor, I was a little dubious because I've been doing it the hard way for so long. But I got to tell you, it's very easy. Use a Stripe account. Get sponsors. You're not paying monthly hosting fees. The sound quality is great. The distribution is phenomenal. Friends, download the free Anchor app today if you want to start your own podcast, or go to anchor.fm to get started. Remember, you heard it here first on Mysterious Goings On. Welcome to Mysterious Goings On. I'm Alex Greenwood. You know, I love to check in with fellow writers, as you know, if you're a frequent listener to the show. In particular, I like to check in with indie writers and authors, people who, for whatever reason, have decided to make themselves not only the author of their work, but the editor and the publisher, and sometimes even the cover artist. It just depends. But I love to talk to indies, particularly because they're spirited people who truly believe in what they're doing and sweat and toil to do it. And the rewards can be great, as we know. I interviewed recently New York Times bestselling author who started as an indie, Alessandra Torre, and she is now made the bestseller list. So she's a hybrid. She describes herself. She still does some indie stuff. But I want to talk to a fellow indie. I started indie, and now I've got some small press stuff, very small press, so small that you don't even see it. But I wanted to talk to a fellow indie who's got a lot of exciting stuff going on. And this is my pleasure to introduce Amanda Steele. She is from Manchester, England, and she is going to talk to us about her journey and her books and lots of stuff. Amanda, welcome to Mysterious Goings On.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
That's my pleasure. Well, Amanda, tell us, if you would, your journey. I'd love to hear, I think everybody who listens to my show here really likes the origin story of us superhero writers. So what's your origin story?
I think I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I was about 5 and I tried to rewrite some fairy tales. I remember making like a big sheet of paper, folding it up and rewriting the 3 Little Pigs. I don't know how it ended, but I just presented it to my mum and said, "This is my book."
You know, I did the same thing, although I think I just rewrote episodes of Star Trek. Yeah, it's funny how they had some of the exact same lines out of the show. My folks were amused, I think, about that. So you've been writing, obviously, then since you've been able to write. So is there a particular genre that you're attracted to? I see you've done a lot of things. What's attracted you most?
I do have a bit of a reputation for horror, but I've done a lot of different things. But as someone pointed out to me in the writing workshop I do, the common theme seems to be that somebody always dies. Because they said to me, "Have you done anything where nobody dies?" I'm like, "Well, I'm sure I must have." And I went back through everything and I can't find a single thing.
Well, that's a cheerful subject. I mean, but so when you say that though, but is there? I mean, you say you're sticking to mostly horror, but now people die in mysteries. I write mystery thrillers. People die in those. Have you done anything like that?
I've done a book called Ghost of Me, which is a crossover between crime and paranormal. And it starts off with the main character finding herself in the morgue and she sees her own dead body and realizes she's been murdered.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. But your first, that's your more recent book, right? Ghost of Me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about the Destiny Initiatives? Is that a series? What's that all about?
That's a young adult fiction series, and I started that about 3 or 4 years ago. And there was a thing called Kindle Scout, which was like a competition, and you could get votes, and you'd get published, and you'd get a publishing contract. And I did get quite a few votes, but it didn't win that. So I just went on to self-publish it, and then I unpublished that. I got a small publisher for it, and that's fallen through now because they've shut down due to lack
Uh,
of money.
yeah.
So I've republished it again. And I thought because it's been so long, I just put the second book out straight after, and the third one's coming out probably at the end of the year.
Well, how do you find that's going? I've done a series. I'm on my eighth book in my series. It could very well be the last. I don't know. I'm starting to notice a diminution of sales in the series. So I guess my question is two things. One is, do you feel like the series is still a viable thing for you? Is your series working out? Um, and what is your take on that? If it is working out, do you keep going, or you just say to yourself, no, it's going to be a trilogy, and if it sells well, great. Or do you kind of do what I did, and I'm a masochist, I guess. I just keep going, even hoping the next book will sell. How do you feel about that?
I think it was always going to be a trilogy, and it's still going to be. And I'm getting to the end of the first draft now, and I feel like I've probably gone in a different direction with it than I would if I'd written it maybe 2 years ago when the first book got published.
Right. Right. Well, I ran into a similar deal. My first book way back in 2007, 2008. I was really close with a couple of agents who were really interested in repping it, and then of course that was when the first Great Recession hit of the century, and everybody just got very scared and said, no, publishers are not going to take any risks right now. And I've kind of fell in the same boat that you did, where it's just, yeah, but I want to get this out. And so I understand that, because I have a drawer full of stuff that's just crap, and I don't want to get out, but that one I was proud of. So I
Yeah.
understand that. It's like you don't want to keep your kids locked in a closet, especially if they're really entertaining kids. So when you say it's a young adult, the Destiny Initiative stuff, can you give us a little flavor about that? What's it all about? What goes on in these?
Okay, so the main character is called Meredith, and she's descended from mermaids, so that gives her some powers that mermaids have, like she can lure people in and sing to them and make them do whatever she wants to do. And then as the book goes on, she discovers other ways of using the powers as well. And
Ooh.
she's supposed to protect people who have got an important mission in life. So there's a kid who's going to grow up and cure cancer, and then the bad guys are trying to kill him off. So she's got to save him, and it starts from there, really.
Oh, wow. Wow. And do you think is it young ladies who are reading this more? Do you have any idea about your demographics? Who's reading it?
I'd like to think there's males reading it as well. There's like a secondary character who's like a brother, but he's not. But because they get taken away from their parents at the age of 7, they're like the only family they've got to each other.
Ah, okay, very good. So there's a good place, because I think it's important for readers, depending to identify with at least one character, right? Do you feel that way too? I always like to make sure that there's, in my cast of characters in my books, I have people say, oh, I really like that guy, or oh, she's totally me. She's my fave. I think that's so helpful. I think that's an important thing for writers to remember, is to always make sure that there's ample avenues for the reader to fall in love with your work.
Yeah. I did get a lot of good feedback the first time I brought it out as well. Because it wasn't planned, but as I was forming the character of Meredith, I just thought she likes girls, she's a lesbian,
Mhm.
and I've never really done that in my work before, and everyone was commenting saying it's good to see like a positive lesbian role model in it, and
Yeah.
instead of like falling in love with the brother type character, which might normally happen in the thing with them being the two main characters,
Right. Right.
it's definitely like a brother sister relationship, and I think it helps to establish that and says there'll be no romance between those two.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, because then again, there you again you have, and particularly young adults who are discovering their sexuality. They want literary figures and to cling to as well. wouldn't you say?
Yeah, yeah, because she's really comfortable with that. The thing she's not comfortable with is the fact that she's got to save the world, and she's a bit torn between having a normal life and doing what she's supposed to do, like her destiny says. And she kind of wants to do both. I think she does like having the powers, but she also wants to be a normal teenager.
Oh yeah. I think that's a fun thing to do with. I do that in my series too, where the lead character he just kind of wants to have a normal life, but of course that's not allowed because he's my lead character. He gets falls into messes all the time. But yours, my gosh, my guy's not saving the world. He's just saving his corner of it. You, she's actually Meredith's actually saving the entire planet, right?
Well, she's trying to. She might be making things worse. Who knows?
Well, they say the road to hell's paved with good intentions. Perhaps the road underneath the sea is a similar thing, but I doubt that. I'm sure she's fantastic. Well, that sounds fun. So that's the Destiny Initiative. So Ghost of Me. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's going on there?
Okay, so I started this in my early 30s, so about 7 or 8 years ago, and it's one of those that I just put to one side and forgot about. And then I started doing a creative writing masters, and I thought, as part of it, I'll start submitting bits of work from that and get feedback on it. So it was a completely different story to what it would have been if I'd written it back then.
Sure. And it's you told me a little bit earlier. I'm sorry. So is it about it's a somebody's dead and someone dies in this one, of course.
Yeah, she's trying to solve her own murder. She's not a policewoman or anything like that. She just watches a lot of CSI and those types of shows. She thinks based on that she can solve her own murder.
Well, that's okay. Most crime authors, that's where they get most of their information too, right?
Yeah. So some of the ideas she's got might not be correct, but that's the point of it.
Oh yeah, that's fun though. Yeah, so she
Yeah.
makes her own mistakes and all that stuff. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And then she
Um,
soon discovers when she comes across evidence she's a ghost and she's not learned how to move things yet. So that's a bit of an obstacle. And she comes across the secondary character, Steve, who's a recluse who can see ghosts, who's locked himself away because he doesn't like seeing ghosts.
ooh. So, so let me, and okay, you've already let the cat out of the bag, so I can say this though, because so she's dead,
Yeah,
and she's trying to solve her own murder.
yeah.
Does she know, and did she find out she's dead? You know what I'm saying? Does the book start and she's like, I know I'm dead? Or did you just say she discovers she's dead and that starts the whole thing? And then she's like,
She's standing in the morgue and the dead body's there. And once she realizes it's not a dream, I
oh,
think it's sort of a coping mechanism that kicks in that she thinks, okay, I'm going to solve my own murder rather than freak out because that won't be a very good story of just freaking out for the whole book.
right. Well, it's like the old Patrick Swayze movie Ghost, of course, where they spend a good chunk of that exposition of that film where after he's deceased, where he's trying to figure out and deal with the fact that he's dead, and he
Yeah,
kind of helps solves his own murder too. I think this is a fascinating concept. There must be so much fun as a writer you can find in this kind of stuff.
yeah, because she got to go to a lot of places where you, like a cop, wouldn't be able to go because he'd be seen. So then she discovers a lot about people in her life. Like she thought her fiance was like the love of her life, and she discovers he's nothing like what she thought he was. And then she works in a restaurant and she thinks this old couple that come in every day like her, and she's talking to them, and she discovers that they actually thought she talked too much.
Oh man, that's the thing. You hear that all the time about. I'd love to just attend my own funeral. Now I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do that. As a ghost, I don't know if I want to be able to hear people whispering, like, because say they're up there doing these encomiums about what a great guy I was or something, right? And there's people whispering in the back, yeah, but he had really bad breath, or he
Yeah.
he really thought a lot of himself. He wrote that he did that podcast about that book he wrote, and I didn't like that book at all. But then again, that might be very entertaining. I guess, of course, if you're dead, that what people said about you might be the least of your problems, but at least it would be entertaining. And I know it's got to be good fodder for your readers. So let me ask you this: so you took the plunge with this one and adapted it into an audiobook, is that right?
Yeah, I didn't record it myself. I got a Canadian woman called Valerie Moss,
Hmm.
and she's recorded the audiobook. She did a really good job of it.
Did you go through ACX or did you do it on your own or?
I went through ACX.
Okay. Did you audition people? I've done that once with one book. And listeners, I'm sorry I didn't say. ACX is basically the way indies and others can get their books recorded, and you can do. And please, Amanda, correct me if I'm incorrect, because it's been years since I did this with my first book. But you can basically put out calls for audition, so to speak, and you ask people, you tell people the subject matter, you tell people the kind of what you expect of them, what kind of genre, all that kind of thing, what kind of voices, and then people submit.
Yeah,
Audition tapes thinking. Is that right?
yeah, I did that originally, and I started looking for people as well because you can like listen to people's auditions for other things, and if you like the sound of it, if you think they'll do a good job for your book, you can send them an offer. And I think I'd sent a few offers to people because I was looking in the UK in Manchester because that's where the book's based, and I got an audition through from Valerie who was in Canada. And I thought at first, oh no, it's going to be a different accent. It's not going to fit.
Right.
But she read the book. She read like an extract of the book, and I thought, well, suppose it fits. It doesn't have to be in Manchester.
Well, and do you think too? You've got to kind of maybe hint at accents a little bit, because you might lose some appeal with. Well, think of silly, typical Americans, who can't quite have an ear for a Manchester accent. Do you find that maybe finding someone who can kind of just give hints of an accent is a little more accessible?
Yeah, I found. Well, somebody, I don't know how true this is. Somebody I know said that it's probably a good fit because it's kind of a crossover between what American people can understand and UK people can understand the
Yeah.
accent.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think so. I think that I mean, there's so many different dialects and accents between our countries anyway, but I think that that's a happy medium that, like you described. So how long did it? Do you recall how long it took her to record it?
I think I approved the audition just as lockdown was kicking in. So she was probably stuck at home. So she had it done in a couple of months, I think.
Wow, that's pretty good. Did you? I think I recall I was given pieces to listen to as my guy went along, like three or four chapters at a time, and then I would give him notes back and if there was anything I mispronounced or anything that I thought was strange. So yeah, but it is a process. It's not something that you can just whip out in a weekend, nor would I want it to be. I'm a little worried about people who whip out books in a weekend as it is, but to kind of race through an audiobook, I think is not helpful to the quality of the book. That's just my opinion on that. But
Yeah.
uh, so now it's available. So it is going to be. So it's available now. This book is available on all the usual suspects, then, including Audible, right?
Yeah.
So you get the paperback on Amazon. You've got ebook on Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, the whole shebang there. Curious to ask you, writer to writer, since you're using all these platforms, because I did something kind of crazy, and I'll tell you what I did in a moment. But do you find that there's one platform that the books seem to sell better on than others?
I think it's still Amazon. It's like I used to get a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, you need to put your books on other platforms because a lot of people don't like Amazon." So
Yeah.
I went and did that, and it's still Amazon that makes the most sales even after that.
I'm with you on that. In fact, I got to a point though where I just decided that I was going to put all my eggs in the Amazon basket. I just didn't think it was going anywhere because I think at the time, 95% of my sales were Amazon, and it had been that way. Let's see, my books have been out for 12 years, almost 12 years now. It had been that way for at least 5 years. I noticed a steep decline in books appearing, book sales anywhere else. And I thought, well, let's just because I like the Amazon Kindle Unlimited options, the advertising options, the things you can do as long as your book is exclusive to Amazon. So I've been using that. I'm not saying I'm going to do that forever, but right now I think that's the way I'm going to keep going. The other thing I've noticed also is that just in general, and this is probably says a little bit more about my work and what I do than about the market, I think, although I've got other authors who have similar things, but I wanted to ask you this. Have you seen any change in your overall book sales the past couple of years? Have they gone up, gone down, stayed steady?
It's hard to say really because early on I had two of my early books in Kindle Unlimited, and I did Amazon ads, and it was really successful, and I got a lot of sales and page reads from that.
Hmm.
But then every time I've tried the ads afterwards, it's not quite worked as well, so it might have been a one-off fluke.
Huh. Well, I've got several writers who are in the same boat. They've had some really good success, and then something changed. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I often wonder about, well, is there something about the algorithm that we're running afoul of that makes that happen? That, and of course, the market is just flooded, of course, with books, and not all of them great, but it's harder to rise up, amidst the clutters. That's part of it too. And I just don't have huge advertising budgets myself, so I'm always curious to ask other writers how that's going. So sounds like you're kind of facing the same stuff most indies are facing, right? It's ups and downs, but you just keep plugging away.
Yeah, it seemed really positive in the run up to Ghost of Me coming out because I had pre-order about 4 months before, and I got quite a few sales and pre-orders from that. But just as it came out, then lockdown happened, and it just like dried up so quickly. Then,
Isn't that counterintuitive? You would think in lockdown people would want stuff to read.
well, they might be reading, but they're not reading my books.
They're not reading mine either. But I will say, I will say this, Amanda. I I used to be what I would call a voracious reader, but I'm still a very strong reader. I'm surrounded by books. I love books. Obviously, you can't be a good writer if you don't read. But I have found during lockdown it to be difficult to focus sometimes. I don't know why. It's not that I have. It's getting better now with work, but I'm a if you Amanda, you don't know, but I mean, my day job, I'm a consultant. So, but my business went off a cliff. I literally had a couple of months where I could have read dozens of books, and I just had a hard time focusing. I don't know if it was just anxiety about COVID or what. I don't know if you've noticed that or heard about that, but that's kind of where I was.
Yeah, I've been reading quite a lot. I do a book podcast anyway, a book review podcast, so I have to read a lot to start with. But I've probably been reading double what I need to read and then having lots of choice because I can't put it all on the podcast.
Right. Now, this is reading in bed, correct? This is with you
Yeah,
and Andy.
yeah.
And now this is not an interview story, a podcast, right? This is a podcast where you're just talking about what you're reading. Is that right?
Yeah, we usually have about 2 or 3 books each. Sometimes we'll have a book that we've both read, and other times we've read completely different books that month.
Oh, okay. How has that been going for you? Besides this podcast, I also do a podcast for about public relations on Anchor, which I love the Anchor platform. I don't know how you feel about it, but I love it. How's that going though? Are you getting good listenership?
Yeah, we used to do it just on Bandcamp and Mixcloud, and then I started playing around with Anchor, and it went onto Spotify, and then I got an email saying it's gone here, it's gone there. And I was like, oh, this is good. I'll keep using this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so easy. And I love how I'm not, this show, I'm on a different host, and I'm paying, a hosting fee every month. That adds up. And what I love about Anchor is you're not doing that. And there's also ways to get sponsorships and stuff. It's pretty great. Well, I'll have to check that out. And again, that's reading in bed. Is Andy a reader, or is he a writer, or both?
He's both, but he does more poetry than fiction.
Ah, okay. Now, you've done some poetry, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us,
But I've
please,
got a
please.
couple of collections. The first collection I did was called Love Dates and Other Nightmares.
Ooh, oh my.
And that was before I got together with Andy and I was on dating sites and things like that. And I started going on dates with people and it didn't turn out and there was a lot of strange people and things that happened. And I thought I could write a book on this. So I just started writing a poem for each bad date that I had, and before I knew it, I had a collection.
Okay, well then, wait, does somebody die in this? Because apparently somebody dies in all your work.
Oh no, somebody pretended to die. Does
Oh
that
no,
count?
are you serious? Okay, do tell, do tell. What are we talking about here?
So this guy invited me on a date and he said he was a writer and it's the first time I've gone on a date with another writer. So I thought, well, we'll have something to talk about. And he was writing a war book about soldiers and battles and things like that. And he started reading bits of his book out to me when we were in the bar together. and there was people looking on the next table, and he goes, "Oh, it's okay, they're from my workplace." And I thought, well, that's strange. He's invited me on the date when he knows that people from his workplace are on the next table.
Yeah.
And this woman was looking at me like nodding and smiling as if she was thinking, yeah, he does that all the time. And he
Oh,
starts reading it out in the different over the top British accents. And when the main character got shot, he fell onto the floor as if he'd been shot. And after a couple of minutes, I was thinking, well, is he going to get up again? And then I just left. So I thought, well, I can't sit here all night with him lying on the floor. He might still be there for all I know.
oh my God. You're making that up. Are you serious?
No, it seriously happened. I
Oh
can't
my
go back to
gosh.
that place again.
So he's like a performance artist or something.
Yeah, extreme performance artist.
Oh, I love that. That is so. I really thought I had you, saying, "Oh, well, somebody must have died in a poem," ha ha. And then you're like, "As a matter of fact," that is fantastic. So I love your concept, though. A poem about these dates. Now, again, what was the name of that one? The book, the collection.
Love Dates and Other Nightmares.
Oh my God, that is too much. That is too good. I'm kind of scanning through your work. You seem pretty prolific, but and it's a variety of things. You've got the collections of poems. You've got Always Darkest Before Dawn, a collection of poems from lockdown. How to Write Wrong, a choose your own adventure story. Now, okay, I got to
Yeah.
stop you there. What the heck is this all about? Because I grew up on Choose Your Own Adventure. What is
So
this?
so that was a lot of fun writing that because I used to do a literary magazine for about 18 months and get submissions sent in from there. And I've been around doing spoken word and nights and things like that. So you come across all different characters and people that don't take rejection very well, or they aren't very good, but they think they're better than what they are.
Oh yeah.
So I sort of started off using some examples from them and then adapted them so they're not really the people they were originally based on.
Yeah. Wow, this is fascinating. What I love is that you really do kind of move around a bit in the business. You don't limit yourself, and you got the poetry. Now, this is interesting to me though. Now, you've got some flash fiction stories. The 12 Deaths of Father Christmas. And I love this on your website, all caps, not for children. Uh, have you have you ever wondered how Santa would cope with climate change, Brexit, or any number of issues facing the UK and beyond? Oh my God! And you've got a coffin with the Santa hat on it and a sprig of holly. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, that was another fun one to write as well.
Oh my goodness! Tell me a little bit about your process, if you don't mind. I know these are kind of tedious questions, but I love to ask other writers these. So let's just get to it. All right. Do you, are you a plotter or a pantser? Do you outline, or do you just kind of get going with a general idea and see where it takes you? Or do you have a strict outline when you're writing a book?
I tried to outline, but it never really works out the way that I
Yeah.
thought it was going to do. So I just usually just jump in and just try to come up with ideas as and when I go along.
I find the characters tell me where they want to go,
Yeah.
and that seems to work for me. Well, I assume it works for me, but that's interesting there. And do you have kind of a typical timeline? I mean, like maybe is it 3 to 6 months for a first draft, and then maybe a couple of more months to second draft, or how does that work for you?
I think the first book I ever wrote took well over a year, and then it took another year to edit. But then after that, I think it's been less time. And the first charge book in the Destiny Initiative series, I think I got most of that done in about 6 weeks
Oh
for
wow,
the
my
first
goodness.
draft.
Now that leads me to my next question. Then now, you're also a copywriter? Is that a day job, or what? How does that go?
At the moment, it's very sketchy. There's not much work going on.
Yeah.
It was reasonable before lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. I've been doing a share of that as well. There's all these, but there are some wonderful freelance websites that have popped up, like Upwork and a couple of others, where I've seemed to have branched out from my work, which is helpful because I was doing mostly public relations work, but then when the lockdown hit, I realized I got to branch out and just put my writing abilities to use, and so I've been writing a lot of content for blogs. And I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying writing blog posts about stuff that I know nothing about.
Yeah, I get them. I find myself just writing stuff and I don't know what I'm talking about half the
Well,
time.
yeah. Do you do this? Maybe you do this. I do this for some. I'm working on this kind of stuff where it's like the agency or whatever says, okay, here is your anchor link and here's your anchor text. Build a 500-600 word blog post around this and add a couple
Yeah,
extra links, expert links, blah blah blah, and write these things. Well, when I finally got over the hump and realized they don't care what you write about as long as the links are in there and they're natural and it's not stupid.
yeah,
So I just started writing about stuff in my own life and sticking the link in there. Like, for example, talking about recycling and TV repair shops. I just thought, oh, there's a TV repair shop in Canada. I wrote something for, right? Let's say that. And I just started talking about how I recycled an old black and white television from the 1960s. And I just said, that's why it's always good to have a great appliance repair shop. And there's your keyword, there's your link. And then the rest of it, it's just me spitballing, which is kind of fun.
yeah. I keep getting asked to write articles about diet and fitness. And
Hmm.
it's not like I lead the most healthiest lifestyle choice. So I'll
Yeah.
start writing out, go to the kitchen for a chocolate bar, come back and finish it off.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. That's so great. Um, what's next? What's coming up for you? What do we need to be looking for on the horizon from Amanda Steele?
So I'm going to get the third book in the Destiny Initiative finished by the end of this year. And I'm hoping to get a few more books converted into audiobook as well. And then next year I want to start on the sequel to Ghost of Me.
Nice, nice. I'm glad you have a lot to do, a full plate. That's great. Well, how do people find you? I'm going to put all this in the show notes, of course. But is it Amanda Steele, and that's AMANDASTEEL
Yeah,
writer.com. That's kind of the hub, right?
yeah,
And we have links to everything on Amazon and all those other platforms we mentioned, including Ghost of Me, which is intriguing me very much just to hear about this. And you've got some nice reviews here, very nice reviews for this. And but on the Amanda Steele author page, there are all of her books. These are so fun, and we didn't even talk about all of them, but there's so many good things here. And I think by listening to Amanda and I talk that you're going to be interested. Oh, wait, I have to ask one more thing, and then I'm going to, because as we're wrapping up here, you've done a zombie book or two.
yeah. I did After the Zombies, which was a novella, because my younger sister's a fan of zombies and I am as well. And I just thought, well, I've never written a zombie book, so I wrote it for her birthday. But because it was only 3 months before her birthday when I decided to write it, I thought it's going to have to be a novella because I won't get it finished in time. And then I just liked the characters so much that after her birthday, I went and did a follow-on full-length novel.
The cover is chilling, by the way. Oh my gosh. Oh, the not human cover in particular.
Yeah, I
It's very.
that's one of the few covers that I've not designed myself. I got somebody who I knew at the time called Simon Marsh to do that.
Oh
And
yeah.
he was really good. I just told him I wanted a scary looking zombie looking through the window. And that's
Uh,
what I got.
that's really what I mean. This is, yeah. It's very eye catching. So you do your own covers. Let me ask you: is that something is that a necessity, just financial necessity, or is it something you enjoy?
It started off because I couldn't really afford to get anyone to do it, and I've come up with some really bad covers to start with.
Yeah.
But as I went along, I started to enjoy it, and I'm seeing to get a lot of good feedback from it. So hopefully, people are telling me the truth. I feel like I've got better at it.
Well, I work with a guy who's really really good, and he's taken my ideas, my basic concepts to the next level. I found that's really helpful. But yeah, I see where you've had some fun with some covers here. Ooh, Pieces of Me. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice art too. But it's all here on AmandaSteeleWriter.com. And don't forget her podcast, which is Reading in Bed. It's Amanda with Andy N. And this is basically, again, a monthly podcast where the pair review the books they've been reading, which is great. I better be clear. I think I saw this before, that you're not looking for submissions. You're not doing that. You're not having, writers and authors don't flood her with things to read. Is that right, or am I wrong
Yeah,
about
well,
that?
we have a spin-off podcast called Reading in Bed Extracts where we'll read out an extract from somebody's book, but We're
Oh,
quite selective because I'm reading it out, so it's got to be something that I'll enjoy, because
yeah.
otherwise it'll just come across as me not enjoying the book, and it's not a good advertisement for anyone that way.
Well, exactly. And by the way, you read an extract from Aldo Cernuto.
Yeah, his publicist contacted me about a month ago, and that's one of the episodes of yours that I've listened to as well. I found it really interesting.
He is a delight. I won't embarrass him. I think he was very concerned that he wasn't a good guest. And I said, Alto, you're enchanting. Please calm down. You're wonderful. Because he's like, I don't know if I said anything. Like you were great. And I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning that here. But he was just so wonderful and charming. What a charming individual. I'm glad you listened to Aldo. He's
Yeah,
great.
we're
And
going to review his book later in the year. I've I've got to stop myself from reading it now because I've got a load of books on my list before I get to that. But I'm really looking forward to reading the whole thing.
if you remember when you do that, if you don't mind pinging me somehow, just letting me know, and then I'll link back to it because I love to talk about our former guests and what they're up to, and then to have two former guests connected that way, where you're reviewing his book. If you do that, that'd be so great. If you wouldn't mind letting me know.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right. Well, what have I not asked you about as we wrap up here? Anything that I've missed, or anything you want to mention before we head off into the ether?
No, not really. I mean, there's lots of things on my website that people can see. Otherwise, we'll be here next week.
Oh man, you've got a blog and an online store, and you can sign up for updates. It's all here. And I see that you've got your creative writing work here, and you've got some. It says here you do some editing and ghostwriting and proofreading, and then and you can be ordered through your website. This is great. And I encourage everybody, if you need some help with that, she's got the education, the smarts, obviously, and the experience to do that. And as we both kind of mentioned, writers need help right now, just like a lot of professions, but writers in particular right now, I think, are kind of hurting because, as we've discussed previously, there's book sales have slowed and copywriting needs have slowed down. And so if you need help, if you're a writer and you want another set of eyes on something, Amanda, that you do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
You do that? And is there anything you don't do? You do a writing critique as well, right?
yeah. I'd probably be a bit reluctant to do anything erotic because I just find it funny. So I'm not really the best person to give anybody advice on that because I don't think people would like it if I start laughing.
Oh my gosh, this is great. Amanda Steele, I have so enjoyed speaking with you. I'm going to put all those links to your website and a couple of links to where everybody can buy your books in the show notes. I thank you so much for joining us here on Mysterious Goings On.
Okay, no problem.
And listeners, don't forget, if you want to check out links, they're in the show notes for this episode, which you can find in your feed, or just go to mgopod.com. That's mgopod.com, Mysterious Goings On. That's our home base where you can find not only links to Amanda's sites, but you can also find previous guests like Aldo Cernuto, as we mentioned, and Alessandra Torre, and so many more, from going all the way back to 2016. And of course, don't forget, this starving artist could use a few book sales. You can buy autographed copies of my paperbacks on mgopod.com. You can also sign up to be a supporter for this podcast. Here I go again, rattling the tip jar. You know me, gotta ask. We appreciate your support. Thanks for listening. And please do me a favor, do Amanda a favor, do all indie writers a favor. Give them a shot. Don't just read the New York Times bestseller list. Don't just read the same old suspects. Take a chance on somebody new. You may just find your new favorite author. All right, until next time. Keep reading.
It's a great time to get a great deal on a new car when you get approved for an auto loan from PenFed. Our Powered by True Car rates are as low as 1.39% APR on new vehicles. Finance for a longer term to lower your monthly bill. Plus, take up to 60 days to schedule your first payment. Join PenFed and together we'll keep you moving forward. Anyone can apply. Visit penfed.org/auto or call 1-800-247-5626. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA. A little flexibility can go a long way. By refinancing your new or used auto loan with PenFed, you can lower your monthly payments for more flexibility in your budget. You can even schedule your first payment for up to 60 days from the date of your refinance. Calculate how much you could save at penfed.org/auto-refi or call 1-800-247-5626 to apply. Membership is open to everyone. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.